Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the L1 show. Today is July 24th. I almost said January because we just said the word January, but it's July. And we're doing business and social stories.
AI is the wave of the future. Personal AI has not happened yet. I mean, we've got the rabbit and all that nonsense, but those use the cloud, right? Those use connectivity.
Not only like whatever they have locally, I mean, they have maybe something locally, but it's still garbage.
Yeah, because you need a lot of horsepower for this kind of stuff. You need what are those video cards? What's the H100 cost now? Is it still 40 grand?
40 grand.
So you're not going to have that at home, but the PC companies are trying to convince you, hey, we have a solution. Are the consumers up for that?
Poll shows 84% of PC users are completely unwilling to pay extra for AI-enhanced hardware because they don't have the killer application. Where's my application that I can just tell it to do my boring, mind-numbing work? Then, yeah, they'll be willing to pay for that, but that's not here yet.
And Apple, the normie solution, has definitely opted for doing it on the cloud, right?
Yeah.
I don't care about it. And I don't know anybody's really looking to upgrade into an Intel at this point, right? Maybe a little suspicious.
Nervous laughter.
And I'm a little suspicious of this as well because we've seen a lot of headlines about what happened the last time we tried this.
GlobalWafers scores $400 million to help build U.S.'s first 300-millimeter wafer plants in Texas and Missouri. They're going to give it like $4 billion or something total, or their total budget is $4 billion, so they get 10% tax rebate.
We got that display fab in, was it Wisconsin or Minnesota? Not functional. We got the one in Arizona. It's Arizona, right?
Yeah.
Struggling. It seems like it's not just a throw money at it situation. You need talent, and you need to be able to work together, and you need basically slave labor.
And maybe a disregard for some safety construction rules.
Maybe once we get the robots, all right? But NVIDIA, they are still out there, and they're the ones who are selling those $40,000 GPUs. And so they have all the money in the world. Starting to pull back a little bit, but maybe, like at this point, the gaming stuff, they're like, you know what, throw them a bone, because we don't need them anymore.
NVIDIA transitions fully towards open source GPU kernel modules. This is for the Linux kernel. So they're going to take an approach similar to what AMD does, where there's a binary blob which loads routines that are hardware specific, but the interfaces for that are all public, which will make supporting different kernel versions and different versions of whatever windowing system you want to use. Are you still on X386? Have you embraced the Wayland gravy train? Whatever. It won't matter, at least as much as it does to NVIDIA users today.
It's good.
Yeah. Long overdue.
Can't be mad about that. And it was a really light week in terms of hardware. So I just threw in whatever. And I don't know, maybe a console replacement.
ASUS's new tiny NUC PCs have an RTX 4000 GPU. Now you'll remember that ASUS acquired Intel's NUC business from Intel as Intel was looking to refocus on core competencies or something. And so this is a tiny PC that has an RTX 4000 graphics card, but we're also starting to see like Core Ultra based mini PCs, one of which I will have a review of soon.
That's it's only the 4070, right?
Yeah.
But as they point out, 1080, it's going to take care of you, especially with that process. So if you're looking to upgrade, and it's not the 12 or 13.
13 or 14. 12's fine.
Oh yeah, right. It's not one of those. So
it's the Core Ultra 7, or I think, yeah.
And one of the headlines that we are really seeing pounded into the dirt is how much power AI uses. And we have to, it's kind of like the U.S. debt, right? It's numbers that our minds don't usually have to work with. So you sort of have to put it into perspective.
Microsoft and Google's electricity consumption surpasses the power usage of over 100 countries.
So as you can see in the list here, Azerbaijan and Jordan, definitely less.
For the entire country. Neat.
That's a lot.
So what you're saying is we should have gone solar forever ago. I keep looking at the DIY. I can't. If I DIY a solar solution, it's like 30% of the cost of a professionally installed solution with better equipment. It's like labor don't cost that much.
The thing about solar is it seems to be improving rapidly. Well, not rapidly, but consistently.
I think the physics of it limit us to about 30% efficiency, and I can get panels from China that are like 28% peak efficiency, and it's like I'm willing to accept that.
You better snap them up.
Yeah.
Well, part of me at this point, I'm like, my power's so unreliable. Like, it cuts at least once or twice a month.
Yeah, it would be nice if all of this green push was more you be your own power center.
Yeah. Well, like Krista's problem, she had a big battery bank of lithium, not lithium ion, but like lithium sodium or the sodium, I can't remember. My brain's not in that gear today, but the ones that won't burn your house down, those batteries, she'd be great.
Wouldn't we all?
Yeah.
Subsidize that. They're not going to do that. And Rabbit R1, boy, that was a flop, wasn't it? But it wasn't just a flop. It was also poorly designed.
Rabbit R1's AI assistant has secretly been storing user chats that can't be deleted because that's how they were planning to do product improvement. Let's see how people are using these things. And then, it's the old, remember all the AI stories about there's a call center in India that is doing all of the AI stuff? And it's from that data set that they were going to train the AI to replace the people with AI as like the way for sustainability.
So they have pushed an update. How many people do you think are actually using those things right now?
No one.
I mean, somebody noticed it.
Catastrophically bad sales. The only people that are buying it are the people that are buying it to make fun of it.
Review it, yeah.
Slightly less than the Apple VR headset. And boy, Samsung, I think the strike is still ongoing, right?
Yeah. Which
Now,
is
As of this recording.
world first.
what we've learned is that what Samsung did is they min-maxed. They maxed automation on the better wafers, the smaller transistors. The older wafers, they just threw human bodies at. That's why these people are upset. And we're starting to learn what happened here.
Mangled fingers and no time off. Why the women who make Samsung semiconductors are striking. This is if you only read one story this week, you should read this one.
So they have to pack the wafers, physically carry them over, and insert them into the machines that process them. For the other kinds of wafers, the more advanced ones, this is all done by robots. And apparently somewhere in the process, you can get caught in the machinery.
Ugh.
And it's not good for them. They also have to be standing and walking for 10 hours at a time. And it sounds like it might be a little bit like an Amazon warehouse where they're like, peeing. One woman said, I stopped drinking coffee because that causes bathroom time and I can't do that. I drink water after my shift, which is 10 hours.
That's
So Samsung's press release on that is like, yeah, those are the old chips. Don't worry, everything's fine.
we'll get rid of them soon enough.
We won't be making those as soon as the new chips are the old chips. It's like, well, wait, won't there still be people doing this by hand? Yeah, don't worry about it.
And this is for sure the story of the week. It
Yep.
is a breaking story, as this is Friday when we're recording.
Global tech outage, live updates, flights grounded, and offices hit as internet users face disruptions. It's CrowdStrike. CrowdStrike, this is probably the largest IT outage ever. It's CrowdStrike's kernel mode driver for Windows. There was some sort of catastrophic problem. If you reboot your computer 15 times, Windows will eventually eject that kernel driver. But otherwise, it requires manual intervention, which is not fun.
And only Windows.
Yeah, Linux is not affected.
Infrastructure that was not running Windows is fine. Turns out airports and a lot of payment processors and
Hospitals.
so forth. Yep, they were reusing Windows, and that is a catastrophe. I think at this point, everybody's kind of shaking it out, right?
Yeah.
Things are getting back to normal.
Probably not a great weekend if you're an IT admin who is dealing with that, though.
Well, I mean, if you want overtime, though, right? Uh-huh. And speaking of bad updates, have you ever had a Windows update go bad? Statistically, the answer has to be yes. But they're changing it.
Microsoft introduces a new form of Windows updates because things weren't confusing enough.
I don't know if this doesn't sound like a terrible idea to me. They're reducing the amount of big updates and doing small updates in between.
Less stuff to go wrong, seems like.
If you could just stop closing my windows, that'd be great. Making me reconnect all my SSH sessions. And mergers and acquisitions, we haven't seen a terrible amount of those this year, so it's time for one.
Google-backed software developer GitLab explores a sale, sources say. So GitLab is open source, but they offer paid stuff. They're looking to sell to somebody who will no doubt make it a much worse experience, because it's a pretty reasonable experience right now. They have enterprise and open source stuff. They're looking to sell.
What was it, like 40 billion, 50 billion? I don't know, we're paywalled. But it's a big number. I'll be sad if somebody buys that and ruins it, won't you?
Yeah, that'll be disappointing, super disappointing for sure.
We could win. I mean, let's be real.
Well, this company was not purchased and ruined. It was ruined by the government. And they are saying goodbye.
Kaspersky Lab closing U.S. division and laying off workers because they were Russian antivirus, and don't know if they've been compromised. Don't know if they're on the naughty list, but they can't be sending money to Russia. That would be bad.
I think it said you get 6 months, right?
Yeah.
Free 6 months to transition. So that's not too terrible. You get the rest of the year to figure out a new antivirus. And Apple, once again, giving in to the European Union.
After initially rejecting it, Apple has approved the first PC emulator for iOS. So we covered this. Basically, you could run x86 programs. Apple lost their minds, and then the EU and regulators looked at it and said, "Wait a minute, this looks like Apple exerting undue control." And then Apple said, "Fine."
Now, this one's interesting because we saw the opposite of this in the immediate aftermath. I wonder if this is not so much what they're saying it is here at, what is this? VCPost.com? But
It's a paywall alternative.
Venture Capital Post. But I wonder if this is maybe just not the consumer
Yeah.
being ground down.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you want this week or this month? Do you want Netflix or do you want 3 value boxes from McDonald's?
Netflix's password sharing crackdown backfires with a slow subscriber growth in Q2.
I can't believe people didn't like that. It's amazing.
Yeah,
None of our projections saw this.
You definitely make some choices with the streaming these days. The correct choice is 0. Oh, the correct choice might be hinted at here.
The RIAA has sued Verizon after the ISP quote-unquote buried its head in the sand over subscribers' piracy. Not unlike angry moms suing Home Depot over hammer sales because you can't control what happens to a hammer after it's sold.
The real outrage here should be ISPs are allowing the RIAA to see your traffic and figure that out when that should all just be opaque to them, to everybody involved.
The RIAA sues home builder associations for allowing people to have guests at their home to enjoy music.
Super Bowl's that way.
And we know that, people get addicted to the online stuff. And I think in the darkness of our current world, it's sort of like, let me just get this little enjoyment in my life. But the economy has cratered, and you can't do that anymore. You can't just run to Amazon every 10 minutes. So what do? You just find a cheaper place to run to every 10 minutes.
Unhealthy addiction. Grim warning for Australian Temu shoppers, business expert says. So basically, Temu is just an addictive algorithm, and people are buying stuff because it's only like $5 or $10, even though they don't need it, and it's probably garbage.
Not even that. Some of it can be like $1 for a shirt. It's absolutely absurd.
I don't understand how that makes sense with the shipping, right? Is that just data cells that they're offsetting that with?
Probably.
They also point out that apparently there's like a roulette wheel, and it's like the wheel of savings, and you can spin that every so often. So that keeps you coming back because you don't want to miss a wheel spin. And then when you get your coupon, it's like, oh, I better use it,
I'm not made for this world.
Well, you might not be, but you are made for this article because this is one of your favorite topics.
Doomscrolling linked to existential anxiety, distrust, suspicion, and despair, study finds. I like that whoever wrote this article made sure to mention, like, well, the study wasn't conclusive and it only used, like, college students. And I'm like, what is that? I mean, we kind of know this is true, right?
I think this is part of an overall trend where I'm worried about this thing. Let me check online for this thing. Oh,
Yeah.
I found this thing that I'm worried about. And so it'll just feed into whatever random thing you're worried about.
So
I don't doom scroll as much as I used to, but that was definitely like, there was a feedback loop there.
I want to point out some quotes in this article. They're saying when we're exposed to negatives, it can threaten our beliefs when it comes to our own mortality and the control we have over our lives. We don't have any control over our lives. It's completely top-down control. Like, you're just realizing the reality. That's what feels bad. And then I really want to point out this one, because they're saying that if you doom scroll, it might affect the fundamental assumption about the fairness and benevolence of the world.
I also laughed at that. It was kind of like,
I'm assuming that, who wrote this?
probably an AI.
Charlotte Tao.
It's probably not a
Tao-
real person. Click on her.
Charlotte Tao has never read a history book.
Probably hasn't. Probably just absorbed one through the internet.
She's never. Oh, we can't click on her profile. There she is.
She could be fake. Could be AI generated picture.
But yeah, if you believe that the world is fundamentally good and fair, someone is taking advantage of you.
You're not doom scrolling enough.
But you know who's not going to take advantage of you? And there is some control that you can exert. Store.level1text.com. If you buy a T-shirt,
You'll feel
we will
better.
ship it to you.
You know what? I bet there's I bet the Venn diagram of the people who believe that and the people who believe this is almost just a circle.
41% of people believe every text needs, quote unquote, to include an emoji.
I'm going to say something controversial. It shouldn't be an emoji. It should be the word LOL to indicate that you're not angry.
Yeah.
I'm saying this lightly.
Remember
LOL.
there was a lawsuit where, because there was an emoji, somebody interpreted it one way.
Another
And there
person.
was this, something about, I can't remember the details. But I don't hate it, I guess. I don't use them that often.
I think sometimes you come across aggressively in text because of that. I know that you're not because I know you, but like maybe this is a generation thing too, where like I feel like putting an LOL or an emoji kind of like tones it down. It helps give you context for tone.
One of the things that, I would probably do it if there was a gun to my head, but below that, I will not fake laugh. I will not play into
You
whatever.
only laugh if you're really.
If I think it's funny, that's
Yeah.
when I laugh. There's no LOL most of the time.
You're not actually rolling on the floor laughing.
Not actually, no.
You else? You know who else is not sitting down taking it?
And also, they're not coming across to their workers how they want to.
Yeah. Amazon is reportedly now tracking individual hours employees spend at the office in the latest worker crackdown. Previously, the metric was, did you come to the office? Now it is, how long did you spend in the office? Not merely did you get your work done, not merely did you put in the hours doing the work, but where? Where did you work?
So they point out coffee badging. You can imagine the Amazon office has probably a pretty nice coffee machine. So rather than roll through Starbucks, these people would start their day at the office, get them a nice big cup, and then go back home and work, which is hilarious.
But what if they're getting their work done? Like,
Yeah, that's what I don't understand. It's like the work is done. Who's mad about this? What's the problem here?
Is it wild that perhaps your manager needs to exert a level of control over you to make this happen because they feel they have no control over their lives?
Some people just get off on being in control.
It's wild.
But I would guess that when it comes to, if you compare that metric to market cap, Steam has got to be one of the best ones, right?
Yeah.
And probably for this reason. Now, you might have heard us talk before when we do a lot of the stories about layoffs. And it's like, TikTok has how many? They were able to lay off how many people? Spotify?
Thousands of employees.
Why does Spotify have thousands of employees?
Valve runs its massive PC gaming ecosystem with only about 350 employees. There have been a lot of stories about Valve in the last couple of weeks and rumors of Microsoft acquisitions, which I hope they resist.
Oh.
But yeah, and really amazing salaries for these 350 people. And you got to think that Valve can hire, the 1%ers of the people that they need to hire in order to get the job done. But yeah, you only need 350 people to do what Valve does.
And how about the fact that so many of the workers, such a large share of the workers is the games division, when they don't launch games anymore?
They did the VR game. What's her name?
Alex.
Alex.
What was that, like 6 years ago at this point?
Go back to the hardware division. Think about
They did that one TF2 update.
41 people in the hardware division. Let's say that they needed the Steam people helping along. So 41 plus 78. That team was able to launch with Steam's monetary resources the Steam Deck, which single-handedly altered the trajectory of gaming on Linux in general and mobile gaming on PC especially.
You know what this one is?
Yeah. Microsoft has canned its entire DEI team, although it wasn't the whole team. It wasn't all of their DEI hires, but basically the inclusivity and inclusion, one of the teams was let go, and they sent a scathing email in parallel to or because of being let go. But they still have a lot of people in those roles inside Microsoft.
What do you think caused it?
Needed to make cuts somewhere.
A bullet. A bullet caused that. Because they know what's going to happen. They don't need it anymore. And Amazon dropship sellers. That's a weird business model, right? But it can work. However, it's a weird business model because you're completely dependent on Amazon warehouse workers to represent you. That can go wrong.
The Ars Technica headline is Dirty Diaper Resold on Amazon That Has Ruined a Family Business, a report says. So this was a family business where they were selling reusable diapers online. Apparently someone returned a soiled one to Amazon. Amazon issued a refund and then resold that diaper to someone else.
So then that person, as you might suspect, left a 1-star review. I think that's fair.
Yeah, I would be a little upset to get a diaper with literal shit in it.
And people who read that review as it was marked as helpful, again, I would agree. That's a review that I would like to see. That's helpful to me. It destroyed the business. And they were doing $3 million in revenue a year. And after the poopy diaper, they lost money. They went into massive debt. So they're complaining, and they said Amazon should have taken that review down because it wasn't their fault.
They requested repeatedly that Amazon take it down, and Amazon did not.
I don't know, but you think that it should?
Shouldn't, but if it's, I guess it's Amazon's fault either way,
That's their
right?
argument, right? Yeah.
Yeah, like, I mean, the review is what caused the damage, but they wouldn't have gotten the review if Amazon hadn't.
But the review was true.
Yeah, that's what I'm, like, it's not really the review so much as they shipped the dirty diaper.
There are cases where Amazon, there are Amazon warehouse deals where Amazon will sell returned items, and so the seller doesn't get the money, but Amazon gets the money from the returned item. But the review of the item still goes to the person who sold it, not Amazon. And so in the case of Amazon messing that up, for like shipping, for example, Amazon will come in the review and be like, this was Amazon fulfillment's problem. But that's just shipping as far as I know.
See, I kind of dislike it when I mean, in this case, you wouldn't know necessarily, but like, I hate it when I go in to look at an Amazon review and it's just like, this took longer to get here than I thought, or like, it arrived broken, or the box was dented. And I'm like, well, I mean, that's Amazon. That's not really telling me about the product.
Yeah, people for sure don't understand.
No.
Now, you can leave seller reviews, but it's not super, it's like a dark pattern.
Yeah.
I'm going to admit, I read like half this article. I couldn't figure out
I don't
what you were going for here.
I added it just because he made comments. This guy declines to endorse Biden or Trump, says it's more important that the next U.S. president supports deregulation. He basically makes comments about wanting all of the streaming services to be consolidated, making it more like cable.
He wants the merger and acquisition Netflix and Disney and everybody out of existence, which
Yeah.
who's the obvious acquisition there? Like Disney just acquires everybody.
He's like, I don't care about politics. I just want to make more money. Let's just merge it all.
I think we're definitely going into a weird time with deregulation.
Yeah.
Also, when these companies do that, I've noticed that secondary outlets and other sources for media become illegal where they were not before. Like, consider the gray area of backing up your DVD collection to a hard drive. You know, every year they gaslight us to try to tell us that that was never okay. But that was totally okay in the VHS era.
Well, they couldn't stop it. It wasn't okay with the people in this position. They just couldn't stop it.
Mm.
Remember the little blocks on the top of the cassettes?
Yeah.
A lot of people did. That was effective, right?
The VCR, the VCR, is the VCR a legal piece of technology? Went all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, and in 5-4, VCRs were almost illegal. It's a wild time. I have a feeling if that came down today in 2024, it'd go the other way, and that's sad. We have regressed.
Well, you know what else has regressed is Facebook. This follows a trend, and I think for security reasons, you should probably, I know this is unpleasant, but you should probably stick with the default theme because otherwise you introduce risk.
Facebook ads for Windows desktop theme push info stealing malware.
So if you see something like that, you definitely don't want it. It's malware. And it's Facebook specific malware that can go in and steal your Facebook credentials from your browser.
But it'll steal credentials for other stuff that you've got that's logged in, which is just fun times.
But you know what's not fun times, at least according to mainstream media, is being a teenager in the modern world.
I can believe that.
You know, apparently it's a lot of anxiety about getting likes and being on the right social media and all of this kind of stuff. And what can we do about it?
A new development in the debate about Instagram and teens. So Meta, weirdly, is letting researchers have access to some of this data.
But it's not just like, here you go, guys, here's the keys. They haven't defined it yet, and it sounds like it's going to be a very particular fire hose, right?
Yes.
Not even a fire hose, more like a garden hose probably. And they're going to control what these researchers see, but they claim, hey, we're going to give you data on the teens, we're going to let you study it, and we're going to let you try to figure out what's going on with them.
The Atlantic is trying very hard to telegraph to us that they think it is going to be a cherry-picked data set and not a random sampling. So we'll see.
I mean, I don't trust the Atlantic, but I also don't trust Facebook.
The question, you have to get two organizations where their goals are 180 degrees apart. Because when they're not 180 degrees apart, you get movement in some vector.
Well, you know what's 180 degrees apart? What Mark Zuckerberg told us the future of Facebook was a couple of years ago and their modern reality. You know, he guessed that it was going to be VR and that was going to be the wave of the future. It's not. AI is the wave of the future. At least that's what it looks like right now. But he is tenacious.
Meta reportedly unhappy with how much money its VR division is burning. And this article goes into some of the projects that they're working on.
With sunglasses for, I think it said 2025. And I had a moment when I read this where I was like, wow, that's still some ways away. And then I was like, no, it's next year.
It's like less than half a year.
Yeah.
But Meta probably has one of the world's most valuable data sets when it comes to AI. And investors are starting to realize that. Like, wait a minute. We have data that's probably more valuable than Google's data set for AI training.
I'd love to see how hateful the first batch of Meta AI is. How many misspellings, like...
Well, we know people love to argue on the internet, right? And that's what Facebook is. And they love to tell other people that they're wrong or that they like the wrong things or that they should reconsider their lives. And that's something that social media companies have been like, oh, you guys like that, huh? Let's bake that in. But Google was late to the party and they couldn't get theirs going.
Google search ending notes experiment. That was the thing that lets you put community notes on literally anything. You could turn that on and then you could see what other people were saying. Like, this link is terrible or this is not accurate. Here's a research link to this. They're just, they're turning it off.
Didn't get what they wanted.
It's kind of I kind of love that sort of thing where you just see like people arguing or like just I love the human aspect of the internet. It's just getting shut off more and more.
We need to come up with an AI that can replace that.
So I can get that simulated feeling of seeing human behavior live on the internet.
Well, there's plenty of human behavior on display. If you would have watched the Republican National Convention this week, that was an interesting thing.
That hit a little too close to idiocracy for my taste.
I mean,
Oh, yeah. I know exactly what clip you're talking about.
You're talking about the Hulkster, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that was a hell of a promo, you have to admit.
It was very Comancho.
You think they paid him? You think he got paid for that?
Absolutely.
Yeah? What do you think they paid him?
Probably a lot. At least $1.
You think the Hulkster could command $1 million? Probably not. Right?
Lifetime supply of Brondo.
Well, speaking of that, and speaking of 180 degrees transitions,
The Reuters headline is, Trump says that I'm for TikTok as a potential U.S. ban looms.
You started this.
The reasoning was, well, TikTok's not doing anything the U.S. companies aren't doing, and
we've made that argument.
I don't
Yeah.
disagree with that.
He's not wrong. It's just wildly hypocritical.
And also, competition is good. And
Well, I think actually what this boils more down to is that Facebook shut him down completely. You remember that?
He's trying to court the youth vote.
And he hates Facebook now. I mean, he's a man who, once you cross him, he seems to hold a grudge. And so I think he sees that all of social media is solidly against him, except Twitter and maybe TikTok.
Maybe it could be his campaigners being like, we're not trending well among young demographics.
But they are trending very well everywhere, it seems. So I'm not sure why they would care about that.
And our last story is not from the nonsense section.
Well, I mean, it's amazing to me that this is still such like an open secret, right?
Yeah.
But I think you have to have something going on mentally in this area to be as obsessed with it.
Yeah.
There are a lot of the loudest voices saying something are often projecting, and that's true of anything. I found that in technology as well. It's like, no, you must not complain about X, and it's like,
Yeah,
what?
I feel like it's like when you say X, you're talking about a variable, not the social media, right?
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like this is somebody who's saying like, this is awful, this is a sin, this has to stop, as they're in front of a full-length mirror wearing a dress, right? Like that's what this feels like to me.
Did the gay dating app Grindr crash during the RNC in Milwaukee?
I don't know why they formatted this as a question mark.
The answer is yes, but it turns out that it also crashes during the DNC, and it crashes anytime a lot of people get together for any reason.
Well, they did say that the RNC, they referred to it as because the Super Bowl is well known that whatever city the Super Bowl is in, the prostitutes flock there because it's guaranteed big money. And they say that the RNC is that for the gay dating apps. And they had some crazy percentage of blank profile, no pictures, because obviously, if you're a senator, you can't do that. Can't get caught.
Audio is muted due to copyrighted music playing.
Did you guys notice when they announced Melania, she didn't come out for like a minute.
I didn't watch it. I just saw the clip with Hulk.
Well, you're watching it right now. She's coming out, but they announced her like a minute before this, and you got the impression that maybe she was going to speak, and then she didn't. She just goes and sits down in the family section. I wonder is there something going on there?
I'm amazed she made an appearance at all, to be honest, but
She's apparently been campaigning.
they don't strike me as a loving marriage, but I could be wrong.
Well, I mean, it's one of those. Also, the other hilarious thing in that realm was Linda McMahon spoke. Her husband has been accused of like scat play, sex dungeon, trafficking.
We've tried so hard to avoid the demonetization, and then you just throw that out.
You swore earlier.
I did. Actually, you're right. Yeah, because I said baby
And
poop, but not that word.
And I don't know. It feels like, how do we just ignore that, right?
Let's just pretend it's not happening.
Anyway.
All right, this section of the stream's been muted because we're playing copyrighted music. Bye!